Print. Okay, Senate Bill 1320. Senator Vick, welcome to our committee. Senator, I think you know the drill. If you'd state your name for the record and then go ahead and proceed. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. So let me tell you a little bit about why I'm interested in this before I get into the details. As many of you know, I have an adopted daughter, but I also have 7 adopted nieces and nephews. And so we have a long family tradition of adoption, and I've seen the good that comes from adoption. And so I'm very excited to be able to help with this legislation. The legislation itself is an attempt to really update our birth records for our current times, give adoptees access to the original birth certificate, and move towards transparency. If you look at the bill itself, all the changes on pages 1 and 2 are just technical corrections that LSO felt like we needed. The real changes start on page 3. And I don't know if you remember, but you had a very similar bill to this last year. And the first part of the changes here, section 9, starting on line 3, page 3, down through 15 are very similar to what was in that bill last year. And and that talks about the original birth certificate and information like that. There were concerns that that bill could potentially discourage adoptions if birth records were automatically opened up when the adoptee became 18. And so we worked in the interim to figure out ways to make it so they could be opened up but wouldn't be required to be opened up. And that's the changes you see in starting on line 16. And it talks about, in the event of a match on the voluntary adoption registry, a minimum 30-day waiting period will apply, during which time a registered birth parent may. And then it lists the choices they have: preferred method of contact, open the record, or request no contact. And so that continues to give them the option. And then the bill is basically just broken into 2 sections. So persons born in Idaho and persons born in foreign countries. And those same changes then are made on page 4 that we see on page 3 for persons born in foreign countries. And then there are some changes on page 5, right at the bottom there, that are really just because the law has changed, re-referencing and getting the correct numbers in place. And then the rest of the changes in the bill are technical corrections. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I would like to turn the remainder of my opening over to Representative Young.
Senator Vick, maybe if we just have I'll see if we have any questions. I don't see any. I do want to make one comment. Senator Vick, I know you and Representative Young have worked on this, and I was one of those that was concerned about the automatic opening last time we dealt with this bill, and just want to thank you for your efforts. That rolling 5-year opportunity for the parent to be notified and request that their records remain confidential satisfies me, and I think we found a good middle ground here. So thank you, Senator and Representative, for your efforts there. Okay, Representative Young, please come forward.
I'd ask them if they have anybody in North Beach that we need to call them. We can't.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I'm Representative Julian Young. I represent District 31, and I am grateful to be back before you with this legislation. As happens with many things, as you continue to work on them and to address concerns, it gets better, and I think we've struck a good balance here. It is a process that relies on the birth parent to be proactive and in working with the adoption community and those that were concerned. It gives them the opportunity to proactively have a more direct way to contact their birth child at the time that birth child is interested in obtaining their birth records. It also gives them a direct and private way to express their feelings about any contact that might follow the release of those records. So one of the concerns that we brought to the committee last year is that with genetic testing, adoptees consistently seek out birth parents and a lot of times find them on social media through very public processes. This gives an opportunity for a more private contact. So an adoptee who comes in is required to use our existing voluntary adoption registry. We don't create any new red tape, no new bureaucracy. This is a system, a service that's already in place. The birth parent then has an opportunity to respond if they have maintained their contact information in that registry. They may indicate, as Senator Vick said, one of several options, the last of which is that their name be redacted from those records. And the 5-year sunset, if you will, on that request for a redaction gives the adoptee an opportunity to reach out again through the same process. After 5 years has elapsed, notification takes place. Maybe the birth parent has changed their mind in the meantime and is ready for something different. Because we all know that as time goes on, sometimes our feelings about things change. And so this gives an opportunity for another touch. Thank you so much, committee, for your willingness to consider this piece of legislation. And I also would like to express my thanks to the members of the adoption community, some of which I hope you will hear from today that have had input on this draft. I think this is a good step toward providing transparency in birth records for adoptees and doing it in a way that respects privacy. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Representative Young. Any questions for Representative Young? Senator Burgoyne.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for coming back this year, Representative Young, and for the revisions that have been made. I have a couple of questions, and again, maybe this is perhaps better for the hearing on the merits, but I'm just wanting to understand the language here, not get into whether it's good or bad policy at this point. And that is, the provisions as they're amended seem to assume that the birth parents can be located for purposes of this notice. And so what I'm wondering is, am I missing something there? Is there a provision that says, you know, things work differently if they can't be found and given the notice? And then the 5-year thing, people kind of drop on and off radars. And so again, that same issue about finding them within this 30-day period so that they get notice. Can you tell us how this works in practice?
Representative Young.
Absolutely, Mr. Chairman and Senator Burgoyne. That actually is a great question, and I think this is the time to ask that question. Just to be clear, as I said, this relies on the birth parent to be proactive in maintaining their contact information with that voluntary adoption registry. The default position is that the adoptee who requests the records has full access to their records. That's the way the bill is set up.
Thank you, Senator. Are there questions for Representative Young?
Mr.
Okay.
Chairman.
Senator Lee, sorry, I didn't see your light.
Thank you. So I'm grateful for that question because I was curious about that too and didn't know if that would come out later. Mr. Chairman, Representative Young, and thank you for working on this. I still have a question about, as we heard just now and also last year, our adoptees are finding out this information through social media, through the DNA testing, but the difference is whether or not the government should provide this information, right? And so in this case, if a birth parent says, I absolutely do not want this information provided, and they're in the voluntary registry, so in the case of a match, we're clear about that. In the case that there is not a match, is the information private?
Representative Young.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Senator Lee. So just to be clear, if you look on page 3 of this bill, About lines 8 through 12, you'll see the list of information that is available to be released from our Department of Vital Statistics to an adoptee who requests their records. And this section of proposed legislation was crafted with input from the Department of Vital Statistics, so they are comfortable with this. All of this information is specific to the adoptee and will be released to the adoptee when they request their records. The only thing that is in question is whether the birth parent might choose to redact their name from the information. So we have made a very deliberate attempt here to balance the interests of both parties.
Thank you, Representative. I don't see any other questions. Representative, thank you. Appreciate your testimony. Okay. So again, we haven't got the ability to get those that have signed on remotely. So we'll go with those we have on the list, and then I'll ask if there are those that are here that would like to offer comment on this. And Senator Vick and Representative Young, I don't know if you may have contact with somebody that wanted to testify remotely. If they could provide a phone number or something, we'd be happy to give them an opportunity while we're dealing with this this bill. So next I have on the list Kirk Adams. Mr. Adams, somebody from my home county. Welcome, Kirk. Please come forward and state your name for the record. Go ahead and proceed.
Good afternoon, my Chairman Lakey and the senators. My name is Kirk Adams from Middleton, Idaho. I came in here last year and testified against this bill. And I want to really say thank you to Representative Young, and particularly I remember last year, Senator Lakey, Lee, and Lodge for letting us work further on this. This isn't going to make a headline anyplace. Nobody's going to talk about this in the paper. This is Idaho law, the legislature doing its job. This bill now, I think, meets the criteria for everybody. It provides that little bit of protection for, I call, angel moms out there that may want this this information held back because of a tragic incident that may have put a child up for adoption. Yet again, it allows the adoptees to get this information to complete the questions that they may have. I too am adopted. I found my birth mother. I'm searching for my father, so I'm learning all about Y DNA. So there's still a lot of questions out there about adoption, but I think this brings and updates Idaho to maybe cutting edge to where we allow a conservative state to have our government provide information to the adoptees, yet again still protecting life and protecting a mom. So I'm supporting this bill, and I really thank all the work that Representative Young has done to get this correct.
Thank you, Mr. Adams. Any questions for Mr. Adams? I don't see any. Thank you, Kirk.
Thank you.
Appreciate you coming. Okay. I don't see anyone else signed in for 1320. Is there anyone else that would like to testify on this bill that has not had an opportunity? Representative Young?
I do have a phone number. Do you want me to text that to you?
Go ahead and come up, and I'll let you coordinate with the page and see if we can get the person on the phone. Do we?
Have her call on her cell phone. And just go ahead and call her.
Julianne, Representative Young, we could just use your phone if we put it up by the microphone, if that works.
We've done that before somewhere along with
Senator, actually, she just texted and said she's not planning to testify, but wanted to hear who else might testify.
Okay.
And that's Amy Curtis with the Adoption Alliance for Idaho. So,
Great. Thank you, Representative. All right, we don't have anyone else that wanted to testify on Senate Bill 1320. Senators, I would open the floor for discussion and or motion.
Would you like to have them?
Oh. I guess Senator Vick or Senator Vick, I'd give you an opportunity to conclude. Everybody was in favor, so there's not a whole lot to rebut here, but please come forward. Senator Vick, thank you. Go ahead, again, state your name for the record and proceed.
Yeah, Senator Steve Vick, District 2. The one thing that neither one of us stated in our opening is this is only for adoptions starting in July 1st of this year and going forward. Any existing adoptions stay under our existing law. So thank you very much, committee.
Okay. Senators, again, open the floor for discussion or a motion. Senator Thane.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Due to the discussion we've had and the testimony, I'd move that we send Senate Bill 1320 to the floor with a due pass recommendation.
I have a motion. Do I have a second? Second. Motion from Senator Thane and a second from Senator Ricks. Discussion on the motion. I think I've said my piece. Appreciate the efforts on this bill. I'll then ask for those in favor, indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries, and Senate Bill 1320 will be sent to the floor with a due pass. Representative Young, Senator Vick, thank you again for your efforts on this.